Here we go with day 4, my final day of the 2012 World Championship deck openings. So we're gonna end it on the Junior Champion deck, fresh out of Japan, Shuto and I'm probably gonna butcher his last name, Itagati? Itagati? I don't know. But he's running what he calls Teraki Mewtwo deck. I'm sure in Japanese he probably came up with a really cool nickname for it. But while I go ahead, just so you know, there's a deck list right on the back if you're interested. But while I get this guy opened up, I'm going to go through some reasons why I think these things are really cool to buy. So just fast forward a bit if you've already heard this before. So these cards aren't tournament legal. They have different backs, they have different edges, they're all non-holographic, and imagine how expensive this thing would be if it came with the real cards inside. Yeah, I probably don't want to be doing that. So these are considered promo cards, and because they're considered promo cards, collectors like myself want them in their collection. It's not an amazing addition to a collection, but hey, Pokemon's been around for many years, and maybe 20 years from now, they will be a nice collector's item. So just a good reason to have them in your collection, and they are kind of cool considering that they feature they just show the skill and what decks were big at a certain year. So it's just a cool thing even as a player to kind of keep a hold of. Another good reason to get a hold of these things is that it comes with a lot of cool stuff that you don't necessarily need to be a competitive player to enjoy. So first up, we have this really cool just information booklet about the World Championship Tournament. It's got everything from pictures, deck lists of people that did well. Love that kid with the awesome hair. His hair is just so cool. There's brackets, there's and just information about the countries that participated, and just lots of great stuff. So really cool little information booklet, and everything except one of each of the cards will be available for trade or sale. I'll flip through the instruction booklet and read it, but there's really no reason for me to keep 4 copies of the thing. We have cool little deck boxes featuring Pikachu and his little Pikachu mask. So really awesome. They hold a 60 card deck, however they don't hold a sleeved 60 card deck, so keep that in mind. And my favorite thing about these these tournament decks is that they come with this really cute Pikachu Hawaii pin with his whatever the masks are called, but his mask, yeah. Really cool thing, and I love the quality of these. They feel like significant pins. They're not just some cheap plastic thing, and I think they're just really cool. So I will have all the pins available for trade or sale though too. I try and limit myself just to cards. And yeah, so buying these things for collecting purposes, buying them for the cool stuff. But what about the players? So I think these decks are great training tools for new players. So they come out not too long after championship time, and even though there's typically a format rotation, so not all the cards are legal, new players can still learn a lot from just practicing with these old decks. Picking one up, learning how it works, trying to understand the amount of skill that goes into running one of these decks, I think is really helpful. And I know plenty of competitive players now that they'll pick up a really amazing deck list from 8 years ago, and yeah, the format's old, but it just kind of it gets you playing something different, and that can is definitely, I think, a good thing, and can benefit you as a player. And the final reason I like to pick these guys up is I can use the cards for proxy cards. So that's not, obviously a reason a top reason on my list of reasons to buy this, but it is very nice not to have to print out proxies, waste your paper and ink, had the time to cut them out, putting them with junk cards so that they still feel like legitimate cards. I tend to I don't trim mine close enough, so when I try and get in the sleeve, I'm a little short and I have to go back and retrim it. These guys you can just stick in there. They look nicer than a lot of proxy cards, and they just take a lot less work. That's the only reason why you're interested in buying them, though. I probably wouldn't stress about that, but I still feel like they're useful. So and that's what I'll be doing with a lot of these extras, is putting them in decks. That way I don't have to have, that way I can, I don't have to own 20 ends. I can, sell or trade the rest to enhance my collection. So now let's take a look at his deck list. Really straightforward. I love the Pokemon line. 4 Mewtwo, 3 Terrakion. So Mewtwo Wars, huge. I mean they're still big now. But back with our 2000 Worlds tournament, Mewtwo Wars were pretty much all over the place. Most people had just been running 2 Mewtwo's to kind of, you know, you never know when your Mewtwo could get the donk. It was just an overall great attacker. But a lot of players were finding that if you wanted to guarantee that you won the Mewtwo War, you put 3 in. This guy said, I'm taking it a step further. I'm putting 4 in. Terrakion, it is, you know, only 3 of these guys, but this is the other really, really heavy hitter. This card, it was, the 2 other big decks at the time were Darkrai variants and Eel variants. Both Darkrai and Electric are weak to fighting. So Terrakion was a huge addition to almost every deck. This Terrakion was teched into Darkrai decks, into Eels, and obviously just put with Mewtwo, and he just went through it. His energy line, 4 double colorless. Again, you want to make sure that you've got that DCE to retaliate on Mewtwo. Retaliate Terrakion. And then the rest of his energy, all fighting. 3, 6, 7, 8. So Terrakion doesn't need too much to attack, just 2, but you do want to make sure that you have that energy on there when you need it. Now we go on to the trainers and supporters, which we've got a nice, interesting line of. So we run 4 switch, or he ran 4 switch, and that was pretty crucial. Terrakion has a nasty 4 retreat cost. So if you started out Terrakion and found out that you need to go aggro Mewtwo most of your game, you didn't really want your Terrakion, he just ended up sitting on the bench for a while. So you really need to make sure that you ran 4 switch. 3+ power, you never knew when Mewtwo had the opportunity to donk. You start off with a Mewtwo and a DCE. If you can hit 1, 2+ powers, you know, reutilizing it with Junk Arm, easily have the donk. This is one of my favorite cards in Terrakion decks, Experience Share. Attach an Experience Share mostly to Terrakion, but it could also be used to Mewtwo. And this just makes sure that you're not, you know, this deck doesn't feature energy acceleration. Darkrai has Dark Patch, Electric has Electric with Dynamotor. Fighting doesn't have any acceleration, but Experience Share keeps that energy on the board. 1 energy retrieval. 4 Juniper, and you kind of need an energy retrieval if you're going to run 4 Juniper. It's taking a fairly big risk. 1 energy switch, and we're seeing energy switches a lot more common right now, but I could see definitely where, you know, alright, so you have the 2 on Terrakion, but your opponent didn't knock anything out, you're fighting something that's weak to you, energy switch an extra fighting energy up from somewhere else, and land crush. Otherwise, trying to do that manually is going to be fairly difficult. 2 Eviolite just makes it even harder for them to knock out your big basic Pokemon. 3 Dual Ball, all your Pokemon are basic, so there's no reason to run anything other than Dual Ball. Whoops, I dropped the 4th Junk Arm, but 4 Junk Arm, crucial in every deck. There's just no way around it. They're essential, or were essential when they were in format. 4 Professor Oak's New Theory, again, a card that, you know, definitely should run lots of. 1 Lost Remover, and I really like this card. So we didn't see it too much, but we're seeing its version now, Enhanced Hammer, that pretty much, now this put it in the Lost Zone, but our Enhanced Hammer effectively does the same thing, is puts your special energy in the discard pile where you can't get to it. So he only ran 1, but he could reuse it easily with Junk Arm, and that means if his opponent drops a DCE on a Mewtwo before he's really ready to, he can easily take that off, and that's several, you know, less energy resources that your opponent has access to, especially if your opponent's running Prisms or things like that to you know, have Terrakions and stuff in their deck. Also a good reason. 3 N. Early game ends give you a nice fresh full hand, kind of like a Professor Oak's New Theory, and late game ends can put your opponent in a real bind. 3 Random Receiver, making sure you draw into those supporters. 4 Pokemon Catcher. A lot of people are just running 3 with the with Junk Arm, but I can definitely see where, I mean, a lot of our decks right now, if you don't have Sableye to be able to reuse Catcher, or even if you do, 4 Catcher is the way. You want to make sure that you can always drag up something wounded or the easier knockout from the bench. one max potion, and this is probably just a kind of, again, it's a one of, you never know when you might need it, however, you can reuse it with Junk Arm. And Ruins of Alph. And honestly, this card I think was just a counter stadium card. Each Pokemon in play has no resistance. I really don't think that there were many Pokemon being ran at the time that had resistance to fighting and psychic that were of any significance. However, playing this simply as a counter stadium would have been huge. A lot of people played Sky Arrow. CMT decks needed Sky Arrow to get the blow through donk on Tornadus. They needed that Celebi to have that free retreat to attach that extra energy. And Ruins of Elf said, hey, you know, if you want to use this, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to hope that your second stadium is a prize and you can find it. And if you could, you waited until they had already discarded one, or they already had one in play and discarded the other one because they thought they were safe. So that was a fairly interesting deck from the Junior World Champion. And as you could, if you've been watching the past 4 days, you have 4 very different decks of 4 different 2012 World Champions. So, well, except for one junior runner-up, but I would still call him a champion. He came pretty close. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and definitely stay tuned for more videos.